Good morning, Tom. How you doing?
Good, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing well. Welcome everybody to the podcast. Here, we're going to keep this going, not just for the last initiative, but we'll keep trying to communicate some key things to y'all via this way on YouTube. I think it's a good way. So, Tom, I think you had some things to start us off.
Yeah, first and foremost, you'll see this is going to be a different format. You can actually see Dave and I, and you'll be asked to watch the screen. So, safety first, guys. If this is not one that you're going to watch while or listen to while driving, so if we'll put that in the email blast that goes out. But please, please, obviously, safety is most important. So make sure that you're watching this from the comfort of your couch or somewhere safe or a hotel room or something like that. So the purpose of this is to really get back to basics and kind of recap a little bit what we've been working on, but also what's next for this sales team. Just to recap real quick, we had the Next Step initiative, which we completed around mid-July, and then we just excuse me, moved on to the Get One initiative, which just wrapped up last week. Both great initiatives with that brought a lot of training and opportunities to our team in terms of a mentality on the next step side of things and no wasted visits and really having a plan for what we're doing. And Get One was really driving for sales and how do we plan for that? How do we build a case, utilize resources, and ask for orders? Very important thought processes and activities to go through. But now, we are in early September almost, right around the corner. So, Dave and I thought it'd be a good idea to get together and say, okay, what's next? Where should our focus be now? So without further ado, David, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we feel like is very key to what we do, obviously, is the KPIs. This sort of sweat equity. But it became very apparent that sometimes the decision makers at a particular lumberyard weren't necessarily guys that could witness us out in front. Maybe their office was in the back, or maybe they weren't in, but they're the key decision maker. So when we're building this level of trust, we might have a decision maker that's making decisions and not necessarily being fully aware of all the great things we're doing. So we started an initiative 4 years ago where we had business plan type meetings where we connected the dots with these decision makers. We actually formed a plan in cooperation with them rather than just laying something at their feet and saying, hey, this is what we're going to do this year. And, we'll hold ourselves accountable. We wanted to make an impact event, not necessarily just throw more impact events at them to grow them, but make the impact events better by working with them. And then, the beauty of that, of course, is that, that manager, that person that might not necessarily have a window out front and seeing all the things we're doing or hearing about the job site visits we're going to, is taking into account all the hard work we're doing. And that allows us a lot of things. One is they're going to be a whole lot less likely to, let a competitor in the doors or take some of our space. The other thing is when we ask for opening orders of new products or access to more pros or PKs or whatever it might be to help grow it, so they're going to be a lot more open to that because we've been doing this work. So there are some folks on this call, some FSRs that may not have been involved in the creation of the business plans in their territory that they've now inherited, so to speak. So this call might be a little bit new for you to talk about business plans and see some dashboards and reports that you may or may not know exist. For those that have done it, this call will serve as sort of a recentering of a focus of how we can get to 100%. Really, for all intents and purposes, we're just about to September 1st. So we're at the ninth month. That gives us 3 months, because we still have the ninth month to do, before Thanksgiving time. And really at Thanksgiving time, we need to be in position where we've pretty much accomplished a lot of the core of our commitments we've done, because vacations start, the building season really starts to peter out. In some parts of the country, you start to get some really cold weather, maybe even some snowfall. So really what we want to do is in the next 3 months, focus on getting to 100% of our business plans. As you can see from this chart, you got a good mix from the pie chart from regionally. But really where I want to look at is this table here where you can see the number of business plans and then the total business plan completion percentage. So for the days of the year, we really ought to be around 65%. You can see there's some people above the 65% and some below. Not the end of the world, but you can see some congratulations on some people on here like Mikhail, TJ, both over 100%, but you got Kyler Gifford at 130%.
Yeah, but that's not to say that he's done, right? That's what you're saying, Dave. We're going to dig into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So just because you're behind or way ahead does not necessarily mean that's the end of the story here. So when we click this component, and all these components, you can see it pops up a little like a thing that says go to full report. So if I were to click that and I open it up in a tab, that's how I like to do it in Salesforce, so I can go back and forth a little bit easier. But this is
How do you do that, Dave?
report
How do you
that's
open up?
behind it. So what I would do is anytime I am in Salesforce, just a little tip, is you can either right click and hit open a new tab because that keeps this available, or I just hold a quick key is I hold the control button, on my keyboard, and I click it. And you can see up at the top here that it's now loading this page. The reason that's nice is because especially if you're using Wi-Fi or you got slow data connection, is I can go to this report, but I can just click right back. It still lives here. And I don't have to press the back key. So if I press the back key, of course, it's going to reload the page. In this case, it does not need to reload it. So it's just a little quick tip, little life hack there on Salesforce. So as I get into this report, another key thing that's great, if you want to see another hack here, is you got these headers at the top here where it says the business plan, ProStar completion. As I scroll down in Salesforce, what can be annoying on reports that are this big is you lose that header. So you can't remember what these columns are. Well, there's this little button here. And Tom, I'm going to move this down just so it's a little easier to see.
Yeah.
But this little arrow in the middle, if I click that, it freezes the pane of the column headings. Makes it a lot easier to see, where we are here.
Game changer right there. No idea how long that bothered me.
So if I look, I'll stop here at Connor Manning because he might be a pretty good one to take a look at. So as I look at Connor, so I'm just trying to get centered here, is from the business plan completions, he's at 63%. So Connor, your pace is pretty good. You're within striking distance. But to Tom's point about 100%, if I just go find an overall business completion that he has at like 100%, find a good example here. We'll look at Lakeside Lumber. He's at 231%. That's of his own commitments that he's made. So to Tom's point, that doesn't mean he doesn't go back to Lakeside Lumber, because actually if you look over here at the commitments he made with training completion, he's not at 100%. He's actually almost even half of what he asked for. So if we're able to play the business plan and just kind of the business plan card, just going back to the center of why we even do business plans, is if we can commit to a certain number with them in conjunction with the yard and remind them of what we're doing at the end of the year and how we did it. Like we said, hey, I want to do these things, and I actually pulled it off. I did it, or I went above and beyond in every single category. That allows you to ask for more. Now, what more is up to each individual rep and their TM and what they decide they want to ask for. But you can play that card if you've delivered on the commitments that you've made. If you're low on certain areas, it makes it a little bit harder to take it to the next level. But I should say on that regard, Tom, is we definitely don't want to hide when there's something, an area that we're way below. I think now is a good time that we can ask for help. Tom, you got any examples or any thoughts on being able to ask a manager for help and how maybe it doesn't, make you look as weak as you might think it actually does?
Yeah, I think if you're in a situation where maybe it's hard to see in this example if this makes sense, but your activity is lower than your overall percentage. So maybe the activity that you committed to with that manager is there or is not there. So let's put it this way: if it's not there, if you're not at 4 impact events, if that's what you committed to, well, then you need to figure out how to get to that, schedule another impact event. Now, in another case where maybe your activity is on par, you've completed all the activity, but your ProStar number is low or your pull-through number is low. Well, that's a perfect opportunity to walk into that manager and say, we committed to 10 ProStars, but that just tells me that these impact events that I did weren't impactful enough. So what can we do in the next couple of months to make that to have a bigger impact on your professional contractors? And the whole time you're building a case, there's a reason that you want to continue to have an impact. To Dave's point, is are you thinking ahead to LTS, to having them stock a new product like LTS or Fusion Lock or something like that? And can we leverage it to say, hey, I want to get in front of one of your best pros. How do we make that happen? So there's some things that these numbers will tell you if you dig in, and if we had these commitments with in the business plan process earlier in the year, let's make sure we're following through on them.
Reminding a manager of where you are, he's going to respect you for not running away from a commitment you made. And then he'll hopefully, ideally, be able to help you out because he understands that you're trying to hit 100%. But the big thing that comes to mind about the timing of why we're doing a podcast about business plans at this moment is that in January, February, and March, we're going to do another round of business plan, where we plan for the year. What will be great is if it hasn't been 12 months since they've heard anything about a business plan. They basically heard something about it in September or October, whenever you get around to discussing something with a manager and how you can make it better. So that's great. Just kind of brings it to the forefront, and they'll respect you for it. So at this point, I've shown you the report and the dashboard, and the big reason why I wanted to dig into that and some thoughts is really an expectation would be that in the next 3 months, so between now and Thanksgiving, is that we're pushing for the business plan completion to be at 100% for each rep. Ideally, it would be 100% for each and every category. Sometimes that's a little harder to affect than others, such as like pull through, completion. But really we want to push to that 100% in the next 3 months. So know how to access this report. And when you're looking at a report like this, when you're scheduling yourself, obviously you would want to put some priority on any account that is below pace at this point. So if I were Connor, I'd be scheduling Pro Build Vancouver next week. Anything else, Tom?
No, I think utilize your resources, get with your regional managers, get with your TMs, ask for help. Go back to the sweat equity chart that Dave had up earlier. How can you get creative to continue to push the envelope with these yards, and utilizing the mentality of no empty visits, having a plan, always thinking about what's the next step. And we'll see these things through fruition, but we have to be focused on them now. And Dave made a great point. You don't want to walk back in December, January, and say time for business plan review, and they haven't heard about it since the previous January. This is a great time to bring it up, talk about it, uncover some low numbers, and see how you can affect them over the next 3 months.
One more bonus thing that's come to mind is a tricky question that we actually did a podcast about, I think number 3, was what do I do? How do I get one if a manager's telling me he doesn't want to bring things on because he's got inventory coming up in October or whatever it might be? This is a perfect time at this business plan. Have that meeting with them. Reiterate that you learned that they had inventory. That's what held them up before. And build a case for, and let them know. Just be transparent. I'd really like you to bring on LTS. I've talked to some of your pros, and at this point, I need to a little more work to get 100% of my business plan. But in January, I'm going to ask you for an opening order LTS. Are there any pros you'd like me to go see and show it to now? Because it's going to basically hit, 2 birds with one stone. Is I'll move my business plan towards, what we committed to, and I'll also be able to give you demand, feedback, from your actual customers. So that's it for me. Tom, thanks a lot, and team, good luck out there, and push to 100%.
Be safe.